Welcome back to another episode of Void City Reviews, the podcast. Something like that. Something just fell down.
I don't know what that was.
I think that was your satchel.
Oh, boy.
Oh, man. Oh, well.
Okay.
Cool. This is the podcast. We're back. This is episode 5, I do believe. And what's on the agenda for today? What kind of wacky things we're going to talk about that don't fit into any of our other numerous shows?
This was at your suggestion.
It was.
Best and worst books?
Yes. I was trying to think of things to talk about. I was thinking maybe it popped into my head some of the worst audiobooks I've ever had, and then I just started thinking any worst books so bad you maybe didn't even finish reading it, or maybe so bad you tried to finish and it was still the worst, or the opposite of that was the best stuff that...
So I only went with stuff that I've actually finished, because there's a lot that I abandoned. I started, and then I would stop.
You don't say.
But I generally hate these kind of things because I try to be accurate, and that would be encompassing everything. And it's like, I don't know, what if I forgot something? So I imagine
it would stand out if it was like the worst or the best.
I made 3. 3 best, 3 worst, and this is just prose, not comics, because I'm not ready for comics.
Oh, okay.
But I could do Murder Falcon for sure.
We could do a separate one for comics if you want. I'll stick to prose then as well. But
okay.
This will include audio books.
Oh, for sure.
So I count those as books. I know some people think that's different than reading, and it's not the same. The same words in the same order go into your same brain. And in my opinion, you have to actually listen to them at someone else's speed, so it makes you comprehend them a bit better than if you were just skipping over stuff like I know I do. If it's boring, if the paragraph is nothing happening, no dialogue, next.
Skip.
Yep. So I have found that listening to books, even if I've read them before, is very beneficial, and so I count that, even if you don't. And by you, I mean you guys out there, because I know he does. So I'll let you kick it off then if you got this list, making me a chance to think if I missed anything. But I do have 2, I know, main ones that were...
So you're probably going to agree with one of these, but...
Oh, then I might have 3, because if it's just what I think it might be, then we might have talked about this one already.
We both enjoyed the Dresden series.
Not what I was thinking about. Why is Dresden popping up?
Book 12, Changes. There's so much packed into that thing.
Are you saying that's bad, though?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm saying
this
it's good.
Is your good
yes,
ones.
It's good.
Oh, okay, I was confused for a second.
Good.
I'm like, you put Dresden, and I was trying to figure out how are you going to get this to be bad. The Dresden files are fantastic.
Yes.
A little bit of background.
Right from the first sentence.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
It's
called Changes for a reason.
It starts at a sprint and it goes all the way through.
Yeah.
And
the entire status quo changes.
Yep.
Yeah. Dresden Files, what's his name? Jim Butcher writes those, and it's about a real life wizard who operates out of real life Chicago. So another fun set of books for us, because it's a lot of local stuff we're familiar with, makes it a lot funner to listen to. There's one of the stories that takes place at the Woodfield Mall, which is pretty local for us, and so that was pretty hilarious to listen to. But anyway, his name is Harry Dresden, so funny, he gets crap about that all the time, being named Harry and being a wizard, but lives in Chicago and is in the Yellow Pages. He solves things for people. Under wizard, yes. He solves things for people that other conventional avenues are unable to solve, and that includes the police will even come to him sometimes for things that they're like, this is just too weird, we need the guy who deals with the weird stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why they call him. And it's a very long, I mean, how long has this series been going? I mean, a long time.
I don't know, years, but it's up
so
to
many
like
books.
17 or 18
and
of the main titles, and then
Yeah.
there's collections of short stories.
A ton of short stories.
So it's easily over 20.
Yeah, and there's still several more coming. I know it's going to end at some point. He's talking about winding it down. It seems like it might be getting towards a conclusion point.
Slowly.
You say within 5-ish books, maybe, you think?
Well, there was an original plan. He was going to end it at book 20 and then have a 3-book, I think, Armageddon, it was called, Conclusion. And those plans changed because I think he originally split 17 and 18 into two, so like it's absolutely building towards something, but I don't know when it's coming, but it's going to be devastating when it does.
I feel like it's going to sneak up on us. He's going to pull a Robert Kirkman, and we're going to think everything got solved and fine for this book, and then something's going to happen, and then that's going to be like, oh, cliffhanger.
I don't even know. But yes, overall, the Dresden series is great. Changes, which I believe is book 12, is exceptionally good.
That's very good.
What were you thinking I was going to name?
I thought you were going to go with bad stuff.
Oh.
And I thought you were going to talk about Bloodless from the Pendergast series, which is another series we really like, but out of the whole series, that book in particular is, other than the one that takes place on the cruise ship, book 4. No, that's not book 4, is it? Book 4 is my favorite book. That's a murder, still life.
Yes.
Crows? A murder with crows? A murder of still lives with crows?
Still life of crows?
Something about murders and crows and still lifes. Yeah.
It's the first Corey.
Yes, the first one with Corey.
The first one out of New York.
Yes.
It's great.
That one's good. But the one on the boat.
It's like 7, maybe.
That book is just...
It's terrible. That book is terrible. But no, Pendergast didn't make my list of worst.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I know we've both been getting upset with him lately. We've been threatening to drop the whole thing altogether. Like, after this far, we can't give up now.
The only reason I'm still going is because I have access to somebody else's account where he's bought them. So I'm listening for free.
I see. That makes it far more worth it.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's under your best? Man.
Yes.
Yeah, those are really, really good. I haven't gone back and listened to them again yet. I mean, if we're going to talk about stuff I've listened to repeatedly and I just really, really enjoy.
King?
It's going to be King. It was either going to be that or Summer of Night, but we just talked about Summer of Night.
It's great.
That is on the list, but we just talked about it, so I won't go over that one again. But I'm listening to that one actually again right now because my brother just listened to it for the first time.
Wow.
And so I was like, oh, I want to talk about it with him. So listening to it again. King, I would probably go with, and you're going to dislike this one. Insomnia. I've listened to that book so many times and I love it each time. It's very well done in my opinion. It has musical audio cues in it, which I was thinking about the other day. I think I know what those are. Those are from back when audiobooks used to be on cassette tapes, and each one would start with music and end with a little bit of music, so you knew the tape was about to end. And then you flip it over, and it starts a little bit of music. It was almost like the intro and outro of an episode of like a radio show or something.
Some Star Wars has that too.
Yeah.
Where it'll be movie music, and then you'll have like blaster or door.
Are you talking about like the Timothy Zahn ones?
Yeah.
Those ones I remember.
But those were also from the 90s.
Yeah, and I had those from the library, and they were all tapes, and they always had music at the start and end of the tape. And that was kind of how you knew, like, this episode's over, flip it over.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, Insomnia, I love it. I'll do a video on that one eventually one day. You won't have to be there for, I don't know.
I made it through.
You made it through.
I didn't quit.
I don't know. I really liked it. I know a lot of people say the issue they have with it is that they can't relate to the characters. The characters are like two elderly people, and I don't know why. I mean, you can read a book about children and not be children, and we can relate to that. It's just because we were children already and we haven't been elderly yet. But
maybe.
I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff in that story that resonated with me. I have been an insomniac a lot in my life. There was a point right after high school where no one ever believes me, but I did not sleep for almost 7 days.
Eesh.
And it was bad. There's stuff he's describing in that book that's happening to these people when they stop sleeping. I'm like, I saw some of those things. Like, uh-oh. Like, talking about you could hold your hand up and move it and then see, like, the after image, like, following after it, like, slowly, like, catching up. And, like, I shouldn't drive right now, probably. Things like that. Yeah. Things like you seeing those shadow people while you're driving, like, they were just hanging out with me. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, that was not fun times. That was not a fun week. No. But it's a really good book. I like it. I'd recommend it. if you like King and cool stories and stuff.
I also have, it's another series, but the Parker series from Richard Stark. Specifically, it's crime.
Okay.
It's a crime series, but I think it's book 16. It's called, is it Slayground? I didn't write it down. But in one of the prior books, it's all crime. And in the first book is the only job that is pulled off successfully. And in the rest of the series, something goes wrong. And then it's him trying to recover, it's him trying to survive. There's one book which is awesome. It's very different from the rest, but it's somebody finds out where him and his woman are, and they go to the house, and then it's like reverse home invasion, because they're in the house with his wife, and he's trying to get in to get them.
Oh,
It's crazy.
oh,
So it's very different from the others where it's usually heist. But there's one where, and I think this is book 14, where the job immediately goes wrong. It's an armored car heist, and two characters split up, and the author gets two different stories out of it because he follows one character in this book and a different character in another book.
oh, nice.
But Parker specifically goes into an amusement park that's closed for the season, where he's trying to survive the mob who knows that the armored car heist went down and that Parker has the money somewhere in there, and they're just trying to find him. And it's almost like Home Alone-ish, where
Like
he's
Scooby-Doo, but hardcore.
He's trying to survive against the mob in an amusement park, and it's amazing. But the book ends with him leaving the money there because he can't make it out with it. So he hides the money, and he's like, I'm going to come back. And he comes back a few books later and then finds that the money's missing. So then it's him going after the mob. But because it's so far into the series, he calls up all of these characters that have been in the series to date, and he makes
awesome.
he makes the biggest crew he's ever done, and he's like, we're going to take these people apart. It's twice the length of all of the other books, and it's just perfection from beginning to end.
Sounds awesome.
It's so good. The
I'm gonna have
Parker
to check
series.
these out. I'm gonna have to check that out, the Parker series.
Darwyn Cooke adapted 4 of the books into comics.
I think you've reviewed some of those. Have you?
Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know. Think it was on our channel. It might have been pre-existing.
Oh, okay.
But the Slayground, the one at the amusement park, is one of the ones that Darwyn Cooke did.
Ooh.
So if you find Darwyn Cooke Slayground, Parker,
Get it.
yes.
That sounds pretty good. I have to check that. I like crime stuff. I always find myself listening to true crime stuff, though. I don't know. I do like books about it, but I don't know. For some reason, when I used to work on overnights and I would run out of books, I'd start listening to podcasts and stuff, and sometimes I would even just turn on Pluto TV. They have a Forensic Files channel and stuff like that, true crime channels, and you just turn that on in the background, listen to it. I listen to these podcasts. There's one I listen to a lot. It's called True Crime All the Time. That's a good one. The two guys who run that are pretty hilarious. Man, I don't know where I was going with that. That's just some fun stuff to listen to. Man, good favorite stuff. This is going to all be Stephen King.
Dark Town.
Well, I've done that one twice. That one's pretty good. I've done The Stand multiple times. You couldn't even finish that one, did you? Or did you finish it?
I gave up.
You gave up. Oh, boo.
I think it was the new extended version, and I'm like, nope.
There is a scene in the new extended version I could do without, but I liked the rest of it. I don't know. It's about the journey, not the destination. Especially in that book, because the destination's just a big dumb hand that comes out of the sky and it's like, the bad guys are done now. But also all the good guys you liked.
Well, I'm definitely never listening to that then.
That's literally how the book ends.
Ugh.
The good guys go to see the bad guys, and the bad guys are like, yeah, we don't care. We're going to like murder you in front of everyone as like a show, and it'll be great. And the man in black will be like in charge then of everything. And then like, what's his name? Oh my God. The trash can man. Who was played absolutely horrifically badly by Ezra Miller in the most recent adaptation they did of The Stand, which was god-awful bad. Just bad. Bad.
There's
bad.
Ezra Miller at The Stand?
Even for Stephen King bad adaptations, this one takes the cake almost as far. This makes The Langoliers look like The Departed. Like, it's so bad. Just it takes the whole story and presents it out of order, first of all. So it's just like, huh?
Good books. Good books.
I know. Just Ezra Miller's in it. Marilyn Manson was going to be in it.
Oh God.
The trash can man brings a nuke in that he found in the desert, and it's like, I found this. It's for you, Man in Black. I did it for you. Yay! And then all of a sudden, just a light comes down, and then like literally a big hand, like the hand of God, just comes down and like takes this bomb, and it's like, here you go, and blows up everybody. So all the bad guys die, and like 3 of the main good guys you've come to like this whole time, who went on this journey to stop the bad guys, pointlessly, sort of, as it turned out, because the bad guy brought his own death to himself, basically, in the end. But it was all about, because all the different pins fell into place exactly the right way to make everything end up where they could get all the bad people together, and whatever. It was, all I can think about anymore about that is Molly Ringwald, because of the movie of it, and she was perfect as the character she played, because her character was just terrible, and she's just terrible. Kind of like you and Christopher Reeve. That's me and Molly Ringwald.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's hardcore.
Yeah. Just bad. Good stuff though. Good stuff, man. I'm gonna jump onto Dan Simmons again. I'm gonna go with a book called Flashback. I've listened to that a couple of times. Very good book. It's got 3 different narrators, because there's like a grandfather, his son, and then his son's son, who are the 3 main characters in this book, who are all sort of, you see things from each of their perspectives back and forth between them as the story progresses. It's set in a not too distant future, but one that's fairly believable and pretty well researched, in my opinion, as far as the way the world could go very easily. And it's all about this drug called Flashback that people use, and it's basically like just destroying America. A lot of other countries have like humongous bans on this stuff, like you go to jail forever if you're called it, but in America, like, people just can't help it. And this drug basically lets you relive a memory, like inside of it, like as if you're doing it again, but also like you're watching it at the same time. Like it's hard to describe, but
it sounds familiar, but I don't think I've read that.
It basically makes people do nothing but want to do this drug all the time and just sit there like, oh, what's something I remember from high school that was fun, and then they just sit there in real time, like living it again in their head, but like it's actually happening for them. And then so like everyone just wants to be stuck in their memories of when everything was good and great, because they remember when the country was great and when life was great and all this fun stuff. And that's part of why this drug was, as you find out, maliciously introduced, was because they knew certain people would just be,
Sure.
You can't help it. It's way better. So that's a really good book. I really like that one.
I'll have to check that one out.
Dan Simmons has a lot of good stuff. Like we said in that other one, just any of his stuff, that's a really good one, a really good fictional one. I mean, they're all basically fictional, but a lot of them do have a lot of historical nonfiction in them, like The Terror or The Abominable. Also very good. Very good. Fun to listen to.
All right, my third, I think, might be a little obvious. The first 2. I'm going with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, an oldie.
I love that first book. It is the exact right comedy for me, but it's so dry, it's so funny, it's so weird.
Towel.
I read it, I think, at just the right time in my life, because I was in high school. I don't remember what grade exactly, but I love that book. I've listened to it a couple of times. The first time I read it with my actual eyes.
As opposed to someone else's.
Right.
Yes.
But I love that book.
I think I read that one for the first time in middle school. I read my dad's copy. He loves that book too. That's Douglas Adams, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I read the Hitchhiker series, and then only more recently did I read Dirk Gently, and I think Dirk Gently might be even better.
What is that?
It's his detective series.
Oh.
Holistic detective. Oh. It's just as weird, but contained on Earth. It's so bizarre. But
I'll have to check that out. I've never listened to Hitchhiker's Guide. I've seen
it's really good.
the old movie.
Yep.
with like the guy with the paper mache head on Zaphod Beeblebrox. And then I saw the new movie where they got lazy and were just like, oh, it's in his neck. Oh, that's dumb. That movie was weird. It's kind of like had good parts, but mostly missed out on, I think, what the whole book was kind of about.
It was all right.
Yeah. But I think that was the last time I really had anything to do with that story. So thanks for reminding me of that one. I gotta add that one to my list to listen to it. That would be probably a really good one to listen to. I imagine it'd be even more hilarious than me reading it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Get the actual English accent in there.
Man, speaking of English accents, another one that turned out to be a favorite for me, if you were done with yours.
Yep.
If you guys have access to Audible, I know most of you who read probably have these books or have read them, but if you have access to Audible or any other audio version of this, listening to these books is highly recommended. The Harry Potter series as audiobooks is really good. You said English accents. I know you have a problem with those books, whatever.
It's on my list of 3 worst.
Oh, that's going to be hilarious then. I just think they're fun. I like the movies. I like the game that's out right now. I play that on my Steam Deck. We should review that sometime. I don't think you ever seen one of those in real life?
I've seen a Steam Deck.
Oh, they're fun.
I haven't played anything on it.
I should show you it. It's pretty nifty machine. Pretty handy dandy little thing. Yeah, I don't know. I enjoy them, even though the first 2 or 3 pronounce Voldemort as Voldemort. Like they didn't see the movies yet, I guess, or something. And then suddenly the movies got real popular and they started saying Voldemort out of nowhere. But as far as just, that's kind of why I'm excited for the new adaptation they're going to do, the 7-season series, which is kind of how I always thought Harry Potter should be adapted.
It should be.
Because you can't fit each book into one movie.
No.
And so much gets cut from each one, and the way they started making the movies before the books were done,
Yep.
there were parts that they didn't quite know were important, that they just kind of glanced over, and then it got to where they were important, and it was like, oh,
oops.
Well, we'll just kind of shoehorn that little thing in there. Like, no. So I think having the complete stories and the ability to tell the complete thing and even maybe flesh out certain parts with extra time, I think that'll be also quite interesting. But as far as just listening to them, they were fun. There's cool audio stuff in there. The production value was great. I love the guy reading it. I don't know.
I think it's Stephen Fry and Jim Dale. So I think Stephen Fry read the UK version, and I think Jim Dale read the US. Both are phenomenal.
I think I listened to the UK ones.
But both are great.
Yeah. Oh, so see there, even they're fun to listen to, even if you don't like details of the story itself.
I haven't listened to the audiobooks. I read those. So I read those.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I was dating somebody who had all of the books, so I read those. And like there was a time period of my life, it spanned years, where like I just was interested in what other people were saying. Like if it was popular, I'm like, well, I want to check it out to see what everyone thinks is great about this. So I read those 7 fucking books, hated the whole thing, but it was specifically like book 4 or 5. He's like a particularly dickish teenager, and I'm just like,
It's probably 4.
Hate Harry Potter.
Because I know in the movie, the whole damn movie is like him and Ron are just like fighting for no reason at all. Stupid. Just dumb.
But with the very fiber of my being, I hate it. And then I watched all of the movies, hating every second of it. So yeah, Harry Potter is one of my 3 worst. I hate them. But it's not for me. It doesn't matter. I was not the target audience.
Anyone can be the target audience, though.
They weren't intended for a 20-year-old, I'm saying.
Oh, I guess. I mean, I'm 40 and I enjoy them. Newly 40 and old. Oh, it hurts. Oh well. So that's one of your worst.
One of my worst, yeah.
My worst, I couldn't even make it through. So at least you finished it, so there was something there. There had to have been something there. I could not make it past chapter 13 of the first Game of Thrones book.
13's pretty far.
I don't even think it was as far as the first 3 episodes of the show, because I saw the first disc of the show. A friend brought it over once and says, "Yo, check out this show. It's so great. It's so cool. There's like blood and violence and like it's really cool." Oh. I'm like, so we watched it. I'm like, all right, this is okay. Whatever. It's kind of a bit nasty for me, a little bit much, and I don't know why that's such a thing. Why we need to have this everywhere? It's weird. And then all they do is eat food all the time, and not a lot happens, but it looks cool. It looks nice.
There's a lot of food in those books.
And then I'm like, maybe I'll just listen to the book. Maybe the book's good. Because everyone's just like, the show was out. It wasn't over yet, but it was probably 2 seasons, 1 season away from the end when I started to try to read them. I'm like, I'll try to read these, and then I'll watch the show. Because all everyone talks about is Game of Thrones, blah, 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 the Red Wedding or something, and this dragon lady and things. And I'm like, what?
All of that.
I don't.
Yep.
Who cares? What? I guess I should get into this.
Anytime somebody brings up Game of Thrones to me that they haven't read it, that they're thinking about it, I try to talk them out of it.
Good. It's
because I'm like, look, you have to know what you're getting into. It's very long. There's a steep learning curve. They just throw you into this world.
Yeah.
And the whole first chapter, the prologue, is almost irrelevant. So the first and last chapter of each book is someone away from the main cast. It's related, and I think the first one is like 40 minutes. So it's like 40 minutes of unknown characters in the cold.
Yeah, and then they're just all dead.
And it's related to things that are going to happen.
Yeah.
But like
in 6
books.
It's
a slog.
Yeah.
So I enjoy the Game of Thrones series, the Song of Ice and Fire, but every time somebody brings it up, I'm like, you have to know what you're getting into. And I don't know if it's for you.
J.R.R. Martin doesn't want to finish writing it. It's probably so hard. Why? And there's just so many. There's just so much content in that story where it's like you created this fictional world of fantasy. It didn't need to have these real world evils in it. Like it could have like fantasy evils like dragons and zombies and crap, and like why is it that every single thing that happens in the first season has to do with a brother wanting to like rape his sister? Like what is happening in this book?
That's not rape. She's into it.
The dragon girl wasn't so much into it when she got sold to Jason Momoa.
Right. Yeah. But the twins.
I've purged.
Okay.
Like fine. Charlie. I've made room for other.
That's fine.
I think I made room for It's Always Sunny podcasts with what the Game of Thrones data took up. It's
good for you.
Yes.
It's good. I like it, but it's definitely not for everyone.
No. I feel like I would have a better chance trying to watch the show. But even that, like knowing how many people were looking forward to how it ended, and then how every single one I heard talk about it were like, it was terrible. I'm like, that'd be like going to watch Dexter, which you told me don't even start it based on how it ended.
Don't start Dexter.
I looked up how it ended, and I'm like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to start this show.
There's a way to watch Dexter, which is you stop at the Hanks season. Colin Hanks shows up. And if you stop at the end of Colin Hanks, you're good. But if you continue past that, it's on you.
I didn't even look into that new series. Is that even still going, or did that get canceled? Is that already
I think
done?
it did 1 season, and I don't know if COVID hit it.
Oh.
I don't know. But I haven't heard of it doing another. Anyway.
I was like, what's the point?
So my third is, there's a guy,
third? Yeah. Your second.
Am I? I thought
it was Harry Potter. Was your first one.
Oh,
right?
That's right.
Yeah, so you're your second one.
So my second, these are, I was just doing books that I finished, and I made it all the way through. There's a couple of books one accidental that I listened to by Jeremy Robinson. He's written a bunch of books, but there's one, I'd have to look up the title. There's a book where it starts with a plane crash. There's a guy, I think he's a doctor. It starts with a plane crash in the jungle, and I thought it was just a survivalist thing. Like, oh, this dude's gonna survive and make his way out of this jungle. And for a good chunk of the book, it is that, until supernatural stuff starts happening with like leopards, and then there's kind of were-leopard secret native cult temple stuff going on, and I'm like,
what?
Where it ends is so far removed from where it starts, and the whole time I'm like, what? What? Why? What? Who?
This sounds like
it's off.
That
it's
weird
terrible.
episode of Batman the Animated Series with the cat person that stole Selena and brought her to the jungle and made her into a cat lady.
Alter. It's called Alter.
Alter.
Yeah. Don't rate it. It's not good. Stranded in the Amazon rainforest. He is a doctor. Yep. And then Charlie told me about a different book. He told me about a book called Infinity.
Infinity.
And there were 2 books called Infinity on his account. I listened to the wrong one. So I listened to another Jeremy Robinson, and I'm like, this is also terrible. Why did you recommend this to me? And he goes, you listened to the wrong one. And I'm like, damn it. I hope the other one's good. And it was. So the other Infinity, not the one by Robinson, is a good book. It's very multiversal.
See,
A lot of
that's
stuff going on
why
there.
I returned Game of Thrones. I won't even accidentally happen upon it ever again.
It's good. Yeah, if you still have the return window, definitely go for that.
I've only ever returned one other thing. And at this point, thinking about it, I can't even remember what the name of it was. It was that bad.
I've done maybe a half dozen, but it's over the course of like 9 years or something.
Only 2 over the past 8. Yeah, since after the office job. Yeah, I've only deleted 2. Got them refunded. This one, I guess I'll tell you about it. I can't remember the name of it, which is good because I don't even want anyone to like look this thing up and give them credit for it. But it was advertised to me on Audible because it saw I was looking up omnibuses of stuff so I could like listen to something for like a ton of hours. I had just finished The Black Ocean by
so good.
J.S. Morin.
Yes.
And
all of his stuff is good.
yes, it's fantastic. Check those out. If you want lots of material, you can get 1 credit. You can get like 80 hours of material and listen to the whole first series. And then each of the other series so far, for the most part, except for I think the newest one, are all available in omnibuses. So you can get them 1 credit and you get like every book and story from the series.
It's like 13 to 16 books each.
Yeah.
And it's something on the scale for
It's
like 80 hours.
Fantastic.
It
If
is
you liked
fantastic.
Firefly at all back in the
Yes.
day, but you don't want any of that stupid Joss Whedon drama or bad writing, but still something cool like that, but better, that's what this was. This was basically made for the people that wanted Firefly, but more of it and better, and that didn't just end for no reason. And that's what this is. And it's still going.
It goes deep.
Yeah, it goes so much further
Yes.
than I ever would have thought. And it's cool because like each story of it's almost like a different, so like the first one, Black Ocean, it's like Firefly, but then you also have your kind of like, I always looked at the one with what's her name and the dog,
Esper.
Esper and the dog, like almost like a Mandalorian type ish genre deal, because like she kind of goes off and becomes like a mercenary bounty hunter-ish type person by herself and
Her
has her own
story's nuts.
adventures. Other characters go out, there's like wizards, there's like Star Wars-ish, the Force kind of things, but different, but sort of like the same, but also different. Just so good. So good. So those are good ones. This series though that I returned, they recommended a zombie series to me. I'd listened to some other zombie books, zombie apocalypse ones. I like some of those. There's some good ones. There's one called the Mountain Man series. Those are pretty good. This one though, I have to assume it was written for a very specific subset of people who enjoy certain things, certain not good things. Because in this zombie apocalypse, if you were a good guy, it was assured that you would be captured by racist bad guys who would then you to death.
Huh.
That is what happened. Literally anyone who like made it in the apocalypse made it by killing every man they found and just chaining up women and just them repeatedly forever. Some of them even after they were zombies. And that's just what people did. And there was like 100 hours in this series. I made it like maybe 4 hours in, and this had happened so many times. I'm like, there's good guys in this book, and they just kept getting picked off one by one by one by one, and then none of them had a chance. It wasn't even like Walking Dead, where like, yeah, bad guys happen, and then they fight back, and they maybe lose one or two, but then they win, get a couple new guys, make a journey, move on, learn some things. These people were just like, just in a meat grinder. Like, just from one travesty to the next. There was no point. It was like torture, basically.
Yeah.
Like, just like Hostel movies, but without even like any kind of protagonist or anything to make you even think something good would happen eventually. I'm like, what's the point of this? This is even worse than Game of Thrones. I'd rather listen to Game of Thrones than this garbage. Like, I take it the zombie apocalypse isn't going to be a happy place, but like, it was very clear to me that it was written by some weirdo for other weirdos. I'm like, no, I don't like this. And I wanted to warn other people, but after I refunded and deleted it, it took it out of my list and it wouldn't let me talk about it. I'm like, but I still listened to some of it. Like, why can't I warn people?
Yeah, I think they cracked down because there was something, I tried to leave a comment on something and it told me that I hadn't listened to it recently enough. And I'm like, screw you, Audible.
What?
Yeah.
Maybe it watched your reviews where you're like, I don't remember the book I read last month, so this one's not enjoyable.
It was like, because if you listen to a series, I've wanted to do this where I just write a review of the series on the last book.
Right.
Because I'm like, I've listened to all of it. Here's analysis. Instead of writing 5 reviews, you just write the whole thing.
Yeah.
On the last book. And it told me that I hadn't listened to it recently enough. And I'm like, what?
That's weird. Maybe in the context of...
All right. You want to hear what happened? Right? I swear to God.
I could take a guess that the Berg lied.
Yes. Like, so well.
Sucking us this one.
You're such an asshole, dude. I go, wait, you're eating out here. And I see the door shut. I go, does that mean somebody's in the back? And he goes, no. And Chad's not here. And I go, oh, is Chad back there? And he's, no. Chad ran out. And I go, oh, does he get sodas? He's like, no, he had to get a birthday card for his grandma. I go, okay, fine. And then I come back. I believe that Chad's such a sweet kid. He's the kind of kid that loves his grandma enough to go get a birthday card. And now that I say it out loud, it sounds a little dumb.
Oh my God. I don't even know. What? I feel like I got derailed on that. I don't know where we were.
My third. R.A. Salvatore wrote a book. I did write, I mean, he's written dozens of books, but there was one that I listened to. I'm like, well, it's fantasy. He's written dozens of books, like I said. It must be good, right? Okay. So I picked one, kind of at random. I don't know. I assume Audible suggested this for me, but it was called Child of a Mad God. And I hated it the whole way through. But I'm like, maybe it's going to end well. And it doesn't. I just hated it from start to finish. Now, weirdly, from the very beginning of Audible, I had a free book of his, a bunch of short stories all read by celebrities.
All right.
And I listened to that more recently for some reason. Because I'm like, well, I hated this first one.
Maybe the celebrities will help.
Maybe. I don't know what my thinking was, but I listened to that, and that I didn't have a problem with. Except
Sometimes presentation counts.
Except for Will Wheaton, who has skipped, because Will Wheaton.
What did Will Wheaton do?
He knows. And then there was one other narrator that I also couldn't stand, so I skipped that one too. But Chickless was a narrator in that. Guy's amazing.
Oh, of course, the commish.
Amazing.
The commish has always been amazing.
Oh, I skipped.
Will Wheaton got toasted.
Ice Cube,
not Ice-T, Ice Cube, the guy from Anaconda? And like those comedies about taking kids on vacation with their step-parents?
It is Ice-T.
Ice-T from Law & Order?
Yes.
Yes.
It was Ice-T.
There's a big difference.
There is a big difference. Yes. It was Ice-T. So I skipped Ice-T, but I listened to a good 40 minutes, I think, and I'm like, I can't take this anymore. Like, every character just sounded gruff, because it was Ice-T reading fantasy, and I'm like,
I can just imagine.
This isn't appropriate. And then immediately following Ice-T is Will Wheaton, and I'm like, nope. Skip that immediately. Every character sounded angry. And I'm like, I gave it a good shot, and then I skipped. And then I was confronted with Will Wheaton, and I skipped again.
What did I read? Was Ready Player One, was that Will Wheaton?
It was.
Yeah. A much better movie than book. Because the book is basically just, here's a Christmas list of all the things I liked in the 80s, with a couple words stringing those things I liked together. And somehow, just like Zemeckis did Forrest Gump?
I think.
Yeah, just like he did with Forrest Gump, he turned... so I think my last most hated, there might be a couple here. You reminded me of some of my most hated things.
Wait,
oh
did you
God.
not like Forrest Gump?
Holy cow. No, so here's the thing. Forrest Gump, the movie, one of my all-time favorite movies. When I run, I'm a long-distance runner. I have been for about 22 years. I wear, and I have worn now for over a decade, I've got my Bubba Gump shrimp hat that is so worn that it is falling apart, and it is pink. It's not even red anymore. I've got my yellow shirt with the mud splatter and the smiley face in the middle of it. I've got my ripped up white and red shoes with holes in them that are still great. I still run in them. I am Forrest Gump. No one even remembers that movie. I just felt like running. No one gets the joke anymore because it's too old. But whatever. I have fun wearing that stuff. I thought I'll read the book. I'll listen to the book. I'll get the book because, I mean, the movie was great. And I've heard in the book he does even more stuff. This will be awesome. That book is a piece of shit. Holy God. And there's two of them. He made another one called Gump and Company.
Oh, God.
Which they talked about making a movie of, but Tom Hanks thankfully was like, why would there need to be another movie of this? We did everything we needed to with the first one. There's no point to making a second one. No.
That's good.
So thank you, Tom Hanks, for that. Even though somehow you managed to turn what was one of the worst things I've ever sat all the way through into one of my most favorite things to sit all the way through. If that movie's on TV, I'll watch it every time. If I ever saw that book in person, I'd buy it just to put it in a wood chipper. It's terrible. Every character in it, awful. Just awful. The supporting characters from the movie you like Bubba. In the book, he's in like a page. Basically gives Forrest Gump the idea, and Forrest Gump's like, I'm going to steal that idea. Bye. You're dead. Whatever. Okay. Forrest Gump is a dick in the book. Like, he kind of like is like, the whole point of him is almost like to make fun of people like him, while he also sort of has a bad attitude. Like, he's so negative and cynical, and like the whole thing, it's like the opposite. Everything that is good about the movie, in the book, it's opposite.
It's weird.
Like, he becomes an astronaut in the book somehow and goes up to space.
Sure.
The ship crashes coming back to Earth in Africa, where him and the other astronaut and the monkey that survived live with a tribe of people for like a year and a half before they're eventually found after everyone thought they were dead forever. And they like, and then she just stays with this tribe and this monkey, and he goes back because he's like, that's dumb. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, he was a pro wrestler, I think, for a little while. Like, all this stuff. I'm like, what is happening?
Sure, why not?
Jenny is just no redeeming qualities. Even in the movie, she eventually was like, I'm kind of terrible. I should maybe stop being terrible and maybe be good to people who have tried to be nice to me my whole life. No, in the book, she's like, yeah, I had this dumb kid when I like took advantage of that one time, but I don't want him. So he's yours now. I'm going to go out and continue to sleep around and party some more and not get hepatitis and die like I did in the movie. I'm just going to disappear being a whore forever. Bye. And that's what she does. And Gump is like, well, that sucks. All right, cool. Lieutenant Dan's there for like a second. He's just like, bye. Like, the book was it was so bad. It was so bad. It was so bad. And then another one, because I'll just throw a little twofer on here. You had this much more planned out, but you reminded me of all my hatred. I had a Stephen King on there for best. I'm going to finish with a Stephen King on there for worst. The audiobook, the most current one at least, there's probably an older one that's better, for The Dead Zone by Stephen King. It is narrated by James Franco.
Ooh, why?
This came out after we as a public society kind of decided we were done with James Franco and didn't want anything to do with him anymore. And he reads it like he knows that. But he's getting paid anyways, so he'll put in no effort at all. I don't know what he did before reading this book, The Dead Zone. If he took horse tranquilizers or something, the whole book is read. The Dead Zone.
Oh boy.
By Stephen King. It was a nice day in Darwyn, and this guy had an accident, and now when he touches people, he can see things about them. The whole book, the whole thing sounds like that. I'm like, I'm going to fall asleep go into a coma just listening to this. What? Who directed this and allowed this to be the final product? It's a torture to sit through. It's not one of King's greatest books of all time. It feels to me more like an X-Files episode or like an Outer Limits episode type deal.
Speaking of.
It feels like a gimmick that's stretched out a bit too far and didn't need to be a whole book. It should have been a short story in one of his other books, like The Body, which is Stand By Me, or Shawshank Redemption, stuff like that. It should have been one of those, and he made a whole book out of it. And as an audiobook, it needed someone excited to be reading the story in order to make it better than it was. And bad, not good.
David Duchovny wrote and recorded his own book, and it's awful.
Is it like a biography?
No. It's fiction.
Oh.
I made it maybe an hour.
Oh.
Where he just talked about baseball. And I'm like,
he does like baseball.
I cannot deal with this. Here's one I gave up on. There's a lot of books that I gave up on. There was a John Scalzi likes to use Will Wheaton as narrator. I can't remember which one, but I made it maybe 20 minutes in, and it was just so many sentences. It was like a round table. There was a group of people, and it was just he said, he said, he said, he said, he said. Every line of dialogue ended with he said, and I made it maybe 20 minutes, and I'm like, I can't do it anymore. I'm done.
Well, that's the writer's fault.
Both Scalzi and Wheaton.
I find that if you want to listen to David Duchovny, it's best to listen to him when Bronson Pinchot is playing him, because there's a lot of X-Files books that I've listened to that are really good.
Pinchot's amazing.
They are basically the original season 10, 11, 12, 13, whatever, what have you, before they basically got Star Wars and actually made a TV version, now there's the books and comics are the original canon, and then there's the show canon, so people kind of pick which one they want to go with at this point. The book and comic canon is really good. There's some awesome stuff in there. But Bronson Pinchot, Balky from The Perfect Strangers, one of my favorite shows as a kid growing up, take place in Chicago, go figure. He plays a pretty damn good Agent Mulder. Every single
He's
time.
just great.
Every story has somewhere in it where, of course, Mulder has said, "Hi, I'm Agent Mulder with the FBI. I'd like to ask you some questions." There's always him say, "I'd like to ask you a few questions. Can I ask you some questions?" But just the way he says it, it's so Muldery. It's fantastic, and I love it. And I love it.
I will listen to books specifically because he narrates them. He's phenomenal.
He is really good.
He's one of my favorites.
I kind of wish I could get a redo of the audio for Langoliers, but have him read it, considering he was like the main antagonist in the original movie adaptation of it. I think that'd be pretty hilarious. Really, just any better adaptation of the Langoliers would be nice, because that's a really cool story. Have you listened to that story? Read that story? Heard that one? No? It's a really cool story, but the movie of it, effects were not kind.
Was it a
Back in the
made-for-TV movie?
It was.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But either way, even if it had been in the theaters, like, effects back then could not have done the thing they needed to do. And it just come out looking like a bunch of weird silver Pac-Mans were eating the world. Strange, but either way, I don't know. It was good times.
Well, I think this was longer than expected.
Yeah. Well, you brought out it's easy to hate on stuff that's bad.
Yes.
Yes. And unfortunately, when you listen to as much stuff as we do, from either work or just having time to listen to stuff, there's as much bad as there is good, unfortunately.
Well, try to find the good.
Yes. And then stick with it.
Yeah.
That's why we warned you about the bad. Don't listen to those bad things. Maybe next time we'll do one about comics that are good and bad.
I'll make a list.
I've got a bad one already that I was going to use today, but I will save it for next time. 2 bad ones, actually. One I've told you about, and you disagree with me on. But
there's so many bad, though.
Both of them felt like I was reading a prose book that was just terrible, and it's a comic, and so it shouldn't feel like that.
So many bad.
Yeah, there are a lot of bad. Oof, unfortunately. But that's how we learn.
All right.
So should we wrap this one up?
Yes.
Well, that was cool. Thank you for tuning in for today's podcast episode where we talked about some stuff and some things, as Rick Grimes would say. And that's going back far. Little joke there. If anyone you guys figure that out, that's pretty good. Yeah. So maybe tune in next time. Like and subscribe. We'll be back, obviously, for sure, with more reviews, more Lego builds, more custom figures, more podcasts, more comic reviews, all kinds of things. And if you have any topics you'd like us to talk about as well, please send them, because it's hard to come up with topics. Yes. I'm Dan.
Toast.
We will see you next time.